All right, Browns fans, Rufio here. Today we're going to be looking at the Baltimore Ravens running game from 2018, specifically once Lamar Jackson was inserted into the lineup. And today we're going to be looking at their kind of split zone play. It shares some elements of split zone and kind of duo as well. I'm going to kind of call it a split zone, but if you want to, say it's more of a duo, I wouldn't really argue too much with you. The point is that this is a bread and butter running play for the late season Ravens once they committed to Lamar Jackson at quarterback. And it's a very dangerous play that they can use to set up a variety of looks. And they can also kind of use the same base blocking, but put a lot of different window dressing on the play to make it much more difficult for defenses to defend it. So from this all-22 angle, we can see that the first thing that's dangerous about this play is the Ravens' personnel and their use of formations. This formation, if we just look at it without considering who the people are, reads like a spread offense formation, right? It's a shotgun or kind of a pistol formation here, but we have four receivers split out away from the formation, not your traditional heavy, pound you into the ground running formation here. But if we look at who these people are, first of all, we have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, who's an explosive playmaker, can score touchdowns from really anywhere on the field with his legs. And then up on the offense's left in the slot, we have two tight ends. So these are players that are not that kind of Wes Welker shifty player in space. They are good receivers, but they're going to be able to block you in the running game as well. Now, for all running plays, something to pay attention to is how many safeties are deep versus how many players does the defense have up in the box. Now with two safeties deep, which is what the Browns are trying to play with here, the offense theoretically has the numbers advantage in the box to run the ball without even running their quarterback. In this situation, you can see that the Ravens have 6 players in the box. They're going to have the 5 down linemen, and they're going to have that tight end that they put in motion. The Browns, with 2 safeties deep, have only 6 players in the box as well. They have their 4 down linemen, and then they have 2 linebackers. Now, this is something Greg Williams did throughout the game, and I'm going to talk about it in a future video, but he's trying to get a 7th person into the box here from this cornerback, but unfortunately that cornerback is coming from so far away, and he's too late to actually get in the box when the run hits. So basically, as long as a defense covers every receiver that's split out with a player, so here we have Calhoun over this tight end, we have a corner over the wideout and a corner over the wideout here. As long as the defense creates that situation out wide with any split receivers, if they have 2 safeties high, they do not have the numbers in the box to stop the run. Now, as we're going to see in future iterations of this play, if a defense is willing to sacrifice one of these safeties and walk them up into the box, they then create the numbers advantage versus a traditional run. But if the quarterback is someone that can run the ball as well, even if the defense walks one of these safeties up, the offense has the advantage. They can block 6, there's a 7th guy in the box, and then they can option that 7th guy with the quarterback or the running back. So that's just kind of an arithmetic equation that I want us to all kind of pay attention to as we move forward throughout this. You can also watch it as you're watching any NFL game on Sundays as well, kind of looking at that numbers advantage in the box. So from this end zone angle, we're going to see kind of what this split zone play looks like for the Ravens. Again, it shares some elements of duo, but I'm going to keep referring to it as a split zone here. On split zone, we're going to have the offensive linemen are going to block inside zone, in this case to the defense's right. So you're going to see them all come off the ball going to the right here. And with the split zone, where the split part comes in, is that this motion man is going to come across the back of the formation and kick out this end man on the line of scrimmage here. So he's going to work to the backside of the play. And what that creates is basically a split in the defense. These down linemen are going to push everybody to the right. This tight end is going to kick somebody out to the left. That creates a seam, and the running back runs through it. That's the offense's general plan. Now, as I talked about with the defense, we don't have the numbers in the box here to be able to stop this play. And as we roll this forward, we can see the Browns' defensive strategy was what it was, which is basically to have linemen in each of the gaps here. We have Ogunjobi in this A gap here. He maybe is on a run stunt to try to get to that opposite side A, that front side A gap here. But with the center going to our right on the snap, Ogunjobi is never going to be able to teleport across that center's face to get in that gap. So in this case, Ogunjobi's in this backside A, Schobert's got the front side A here, and then Collins has this backside B gap. And it looks like the defense has everything bottled up here, but what they maybe don't see is this tight end coming across the back of the formation to set a block. And if we go to this, freeze at this picture here, we can see that 7th guy in the box is too late to get in there. And what that creates is the Ravens have a hat for every defender that the Browns have in the box. This basically creates a situation where it's Schobert one-on-one with the center here, and that's not a physical matchup where Schobert's going to be able to shove him out of the way or kind of walk him back into a gap. Schobert's then got to pick a side. Where does he want to stop the run and force the runner to go, but the runner still has an open gap to get through. All right, so that is kind of the idea on a traditional split zone. We're not optioning the quarterback here, and that is that these down linemen are going to zone block one way. We're going to have that tight end come back across the formation and kind of slice block, kicking out the end man on the line of scrimmage on the backside of the play, and that's going to create a seam for the runner here that he can run through. This is a traditional running play. It is not an option. So, even though the quarterback here looks like he could be running kind of a read option, I do not believe this is actually a read option play where Jackson is actually going to read a player and pull the ball at some point. And I believe that because of the way that this tight end does block this end man on line of scrimmage. So now we're going to see the read version in the next play. All right, so here we are a little bit later in the game, and we can check kind of back in on this arithmetic equation. So on this particular play, the Browns have brought an additional player into the box. They're playing with one safety deep. When the Browns have one safety deep, now the Ravens can run it traditionally, but the Browns have an extra person in the box to be able to stop that run. So if we don't run the quarterback here, we run a traditional running play, the Ravens have 5 blockers on the line of scrimmage as the linemen. They've got a 6th in this tight end who's again going to slice back against the grain of the formation. But the Browns have 7 players in the box. So they have 4 down linemen if you include Avery. We have this linebacker here, Schobert here, and then Body Calhoun up top. That's 7. So Ravens have 6, Browns have 7. The Browns can fill every gap that the Ravens can make. However, in this situation, the Ravens can read one of these players with the quarterback, and then they can regain that advantage. So now the Browns don't have enough players to fill every gap and tackle every runner. To make matters worse on this play, the Browns don't execute on defense perfectly. They are run out of position, and that creates a massive hole. So this play is really blocked to get 6-7 yards untouched, which is a lot in the NFL. But if you make one misstep as a defender in the wrong place, this play goes for a touchdown. And as we can see here, it does. It's a sad sight if you're a Browns fan, but it's exactly what you want if you're the Ravens, because you're working in a world now where the Browns can't be as aggressive as they'd like. Because if they make one misstep, they are giving up touchdowns. And that's a really nervous place to put a defender in. Defenders want to play fast. They want to be aggressive. And when you make them kind of pause and think, now all of a sudden those plays you have blocked for 6 or 7 yards, if the defense doesn't react quickly enough, that's blocked for 8, 9, or 10 yards. And now you really got them on their heels and where you want them as an offense. So as we go to the end zone angle here, we can see how the Ravens are able to retake this kind of numbers advantage by reading a defensive player. Now I want you to watch on the snap what happens with Garrett here. And this is the key to understanding what is actually a read option play and what is not. Almost all of the time, when the offense is running one of these read option plays, they are going to leave a player unblocked. Sometimes that's a down lineman, such as the defensive tackle, or whoever, this is Ogba in this case, lined up as a defensive tackle. Sometimes that can be the middle linebacker or another linebacker. In this case, it's going to be the defensive end, and that's who you most commonly see as kind of the player that's being read. Here on this play, we see that same kind of motion as this tight end comes across the formation behind it, and instead of getting that slice block where we're kicking out that end man on the line of scrimmage and really trying to create that seam, he's going to kind of bluff that and arc around him to go block the next guy outside. And this is what happens a lot when teams run that scrape exchange. They'll send this lineman down inside, The linebacker behind him will come outside, and that's a perfect time for this tight end to go arc up to him. So here we see that. We see Garrett is unblocked. Tight end bluffs that block, leaves him alone, instead arcs up outside. So on this play, the quarterback's assignment is to read this end man on the line of scrimmage. If he crashes down, as Garrett does here, the quarterback is to keep the ball. This tight end's job is to go get that next man outside in the line of scrimmage, and if he gets Body Calhoun here, Jackson is off to the races. Only that single high safety is in position to make a tackle. As I mentioned when we introduced this play, however, this is both a numbers advantage for the Ravens, but also it is a misstep by the Browns. So in this case, Body Calhoun takes these missteps inside, follows that fake to that running back, and the tight end here doesn't even have to block his assignment, block Body Calhoun. So the tight end, seeing Calhoun run himself out of position, can then work his way up onto the other safety, who he blocks, and he gets just enough of them here to create that seam for Jackson, and that's all the space that Jackson needs to score. Okay, so here we have yet another read slice play by the Ravens, a slice read. This time it is not Myles Garrett on the line, but the Ravens are going to read him. Now, in this situation, the Browns are also playing that single high safety, meaning, again, the Browns have a player to stop every gap against a traditional running play, but if the Ravens want to option the quarterback in this situation, they recreate that numbers advantage in the box. In the previous play, we looked at an example where the Browns not only were at that numbers disadvantage, but they also ran themselves out of the play and kind of wasted one of those defenders. On this play, the Browns play it pretty perfectly, but you can still see the numbers advantage that the Ravens have. As we see that tight end slice back across the formation here, he's going to arc around that end man on the line of scrimmage and then block the safety who's scraping over the top. This is a perfect execution by the Browns defense, but the fact that the Ravens are willing to run Jackson as a quarterback means that he goes untouched for 6 or maybe 7 yards. Now, this is something, if you're the Ravens, you want to see Jackson do a little bit better as he moves forward in his career. Obviously, one of these things, when you're running the quarterback, you're exposing him to more hits, right? So you want to see him take the least amount of hits that are possible. And on this play, if Jackson runs quickly, he can get out of bounds here and save himself one of these hits, or he can slide and take a 5-yard gain instead of 6 or 7, and he can avoid that hit as well. But if you're going to ask the quarterback to take hits in the open field, you at least want him to do it in the name of creating first downs. So Jackson, by lowering his head and taking this hit here, does kind of get that first down. So that's kind of the trade-off here. All right, so here from the end zone angle, we can see that tight end goes in motion, comes back away from the trip side, leaves that defensive end, that end man on the line of scrimmage unblocked, and he is red. On this play, Jackson probably had his pick here. This defensive lineman not possessing that kind of cat-like quickness that Myles Garrett has, as he hesitates wide here, isn't really in a position to go tackle this back. And if Jackson hands the ball off, the Ravens still probably get 6 or 7 yards out of this play. As it stands, Jackson pulled the ball, saw that tight end take a step in, or that defensive end take a step inside, pulled the ball, and here you can see the Browns stay outside with Jabril Peppers here, and doesn't really matter, right? The Ravens have enough numbers to block him, and the only guy that's unblocked and in position to really make the tackle is Randall, the free safety. So he's coming all the way down from that deep safety position, and he only gets to Jackson after 6 or 7 yards. And this is the last play we're going to see with this kind of split zone read. In this situation, the Ravens actually run it from a motion where they motion the tight end across and back quickly. So it's, they don't really have that kind of slice block on, but it's pretty close. In any event, we're going to check back in with that kind of arithmetic equation. Browns have one safety deep, meaning the Ravens can block everybody except for one in the box, but if they option that last person with Jackson, they should be able to create some yardage. But I chose this play really to illustrate what it takes to stop the run against this kind of quarterback read if you are not willing to sacrifice this safety. If the Browns were willing to play with no safeties deep and pull this safety up into the box, they could then recreate that numbers advantage and have everyone to fill every gap and tackle both the quarterback and the running back in this play. But as it stands with that free safety, this is what you need to be able to beat the offense. So here from the end zone angle, we're going to see how the Browns are able to do this. Peppers here is that end man on the line of scrimmage. He is trying to keep contain on this run here to the outside. But this is really what it takes. Peppers just straight up beats his blocker. This tight end here is going to block Peppers, and Peppers just gives him a little slip swim move to the outside. The Browns then can send the defensive lineman inside to take away the dive by the running back. Schobert has the next gap outside. And then Peppers, because he's able to beat his block, now we finally have the numbers advantage to be able to tackle the runner. But you can clearly see from here, if this is a keep read, which it is because this is the option guy, he goes inside, quarterback keeps and runs outside. The Ravens have enough players to still block the Browns out there. If they simply execute their blocks and block Peppers and Schobert, this is another touchdown for the Ravens. However, as it is in pretty much every sport, right, if you get the right individual performance at the right time and you're able to beat their players one-on-one, as Peppers does here, that's what kind of creates that advantage back in your favor, and the Browns are able to stop Jackson here. Now, this kind of thing is great, and, obviously you want to load your defense with the kind of players who can kind of do this and kind of muck up that arithmetic and play two gaps or beat a block. And make plays, but it's really not a reliable, sustainable thing coming from the defense. This is the kind of thing that's not going to happen every down and not going to be just a sound defense to take away this running game. All right, so that's it for me for this week, Browns fans. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you visit dogsbynature.com for all your Cleveland Browns news and analysis. I'm Rufio. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.